This is the Wisconsin Sports Zone Update. Well, every player on the Packers roster practiced in some way today. That included wide receiver Jayden Reed and quarterback Nate Hobbs. Both had missed practice yesterday with injuries. Micah Parsons also practiced for a second straight day as he deals with a back injury. Packers will open the season on Sunday against the Lions at Lambeau Field. Green Bay has lost 6 of 7 in the series, 3 straight at Lambeau Field. Kickoff Sunday is at 3:25. Turn to the Badgers. They're preparing for a visit from Middle Tennessee State on Saturday. They're doing so without the services of starting quarterback Billy Edwards Jr. after a knee injury against Miami of Ohio. In his place, sophomore Danny O'Neal. He came off the bench to throw for 120 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception against the Red Hawks. He was asked this week where they need to be better this time around.
I think the biggest thing is just, operation, coming out hot. I think that's a big thing that I want to focus on. And, not just me, but the offense in general, just being able to come out swinging, come out, our best step being the next one. So being able to just go one play at a time all the way down the field until we get in the end zone and try and do that early.
Wisconsin favored by 28.5 in the game. Kick on Saturday is set for 3:25.
Keeping Wisconsin strong. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer. Did you know they also offer competitive home, auto, business, and life insurance? They make it convenient to bundle your insurance while saving you time and money. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more.
Keeping Wisconsin strong. Well, it's Brewers and Phillies this afternoon at American Family Field as they close out their series. After today, Brewers going to head east, face the Pirates in a 3-game series starting tomorrow night. 21 games left in the regular season. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Week 1, this matchup being against the Lions and now being part of the rivalries in the NFC North?
Honestly, bro, I felt like Dallas and Detroit already had a rivalry. I already got that rivalry built up. Bro, I'm excited to play them. I never liked Detroit. I never liked them. Even when I was in Dallas, it's just it was just always a heavyweight fight every time they came in, and they kind of got our guys when I was injured last year, or the whole team was injured. And so, I just think it's a funny way how things work. I'm excited to play them. I know they're excited, and it's going to go all 12 to 15 rounds.
What do you think of trick plays?
Trick plays are for people who can't beat you straight up. It's like a guy running around the ring all day trying to jab, but meet me in the middle. You know what I mean? Let's line it up. And I think that's what guys who try to do trick plays do. They can't beat you head up. They don't want to out-physical you. They don't want to be dominant. It's a scared tactic, I guess, but, I can beat you any which way.
Detroit, in both games that we played them, we got behind way too early, and that's hard to do against a really good football team. Costly turnovers in both games that ended up being critical plays.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
It's a little bit from Micah Parsons and from Matt LaFleur, but that Micah Parsons audio from this afternoon, the first time since his introductory presser last week, to my knowledge, at least, that the Packers beat has had a chance to catch up with him, at least in a formal open locker room setting. So I have a little bit more Micah Parsons audio for you, specifically him talking about his back. Mike sent that over right away this afternoon. Now, Mike Clemens, going to be here at 5:30. And with some more sound, and he can give a full accounting of what he saw in Green Bay today. Jayden Reed back at practice, which is actually what I want to begin with tonight. I want to start with Jayden Reed, but we'll get all the latest on Micah Parsons, who practiced today, Jayden Reed, who practiced today, and then Micah Parsons meeting with the media for the first time, again, to my knowledge, in an open locker room setting. So we'll get the latest in about an hour and a half from Mike Clemens, and a little bit of Micah audio before then, kind of sprinkle it in, specifically the logistics, the housekeeping of him talking about his back and how that injury first popped up and how they're dealing with it. So again, that's kind of a housekeeping thing, just the latest information on that. John Middlekauff, who's one of my favorite people who does radio, podcasting, writing, just one of my favorite people in the NFL space. You're going to hear a conversation at 4:30 that I had with him earlier this afternoon. I was thinking 10 or 12 minutes. We did a solid 20. And I also picked his brain a little bit on what he sees with Luke Fickell and the Badgers. So you're going to hear that conversation coming up in a half hour. Might be the best thing that is a part of the show this week. I don't want I don't want to get your hopes too high. And there's still plenty of week left between Mike Clemens at 5:30, the rest of the show tonight, and then tomorrow after the NFL's opener today. And tomorrow will certainly be a lot of Detroit, Green Bay kind of previewing going into the weekend. But this might end up being, I don't want to get your expectations and your hopes too high, but I think it's going to be one of the better segments of the week. So John Middlekauff coming up here in about a half hour. Your calls welcome throughout 608-321-1670. It's the best part of sports talk radio, as I often say, is taking calls. So we'll do that throughout. And we'll get to the Brewers a little bit in an hour or two. They're playing right now. They're in the fourth inning, which I was confused. Why are we starting at 3:30 on a getaway day too? Nonetheless, it seems like the Brewers kind of got the short end of that stick. They're headed to Pittsburgh tomorrow. So delayed by a couple of hours, but man, when you're in the schedule of a baseball season, a couple of hours can make a difference. That game, I think, is a little bit later because it's an MLB Network game or something. Freddie Peralta looks really good. Knock on wood, through 4 innings, he looks like he has the goods. Watch, he'll give up a tank now and have a 30-pitch inning. But at least through the fourth, Suarez and Peralta 100% have been as advertised. So maybe a little bit of Brewers in the second half, depending on how this game goes, or depending if the game ends early. I don't want to talk about the Brewers while they're playing. I'm not going to cross program. So we'll begin with the Packers, like I said. Now I want to start with Jayden Reed. He was back at practice today after being absent yesterday. He's been dealing with a foot injury. He's been seen in a walking boot, which my condolences. I have all the sympathy. I just got my walking boot off earlier this week. Hopefully it doesn't have to go back on at some point. But with Micah Parsons rolling into town and that kind of sucking up all the attention and the oxygen over the last week, with good reason, we haven't really talked about Jayden Reed and his injury. And I don't want to be the guy who's like, hey, we haven't talked about this. We should probably be worried about this. We should probably be concerned about this. But I think we should probably be paying a little bit closer attention to that and treating it like a little bit more of a story, because it's a big deal. I'll give you the latest. This is from Zach Cruz at the Packers Wire, just to kind of build a little bit of a foundation if you haven't been following Jayden Reed's foot. Because why would you? Micah Parsons just got to town again. It's kind of a big deal that's taken a lot of our attention. But this is from Zach Cruz at the Packers Wire, just a little bit of a base. Jayden Reed still isn't 100% and is planning to play through a significant injury to his left foot, according to Jason Wilde, Channel 3000. Reed returned to practice on Wednesday, but is dealing with a Jones fracture in his left foot, an injury that typically requires surgery to repair and months of recovery time. Reed, who was in a walking boot earlier this month, says he is working through the injury. That's a quote, working through. And he's hoping to use a combination of rest and treatment to play through it this season. Just rest, man, quote, Reed told Wilde. What I've got going on, there's not much I can do, but I'm going to manage it, get rest, and treat it. It's possible Reed will be a limited participant during most weeks, so he can play on Sundays. Reed said he was injured while making a cut during training camp. He missed the team's family night at Lambeau in early August and only just returned to practice Wednesday. This is this week, but then he missed Thursday, or he showed up back to practice, got an off day, now back at practice again today is the accounting. I can't keep my days straight. It's a short week. We had Monday off, so I'm a little turned around. Reed's return to practice this week provides real hope that he'll be able to play through the season opener against the Lions, but there's a new question at hand. How long will Reed's foot last? His injury is significant and could be a ticking time bomb in 2025. Now, I don't want to use incendiary language like ticking time bomb, but this is concerning to me. Let me frame it this way, Packers fans. I know the Packers probably stand to have quite an egalitarian offense. They're going to run the ball a lot. Josh Jacobs is maybe their best player. Tucker Kraft is certainly going to command a lot of attention and targets, or should, at the tight end position. And they have a slew of wide receivers that we like to varying degrees. You ask different people, they'll probably give you a slightly different opinion of Wicks versus Dobbs, Dobbs versus Reed, Reed versus Matthew Golden. How's he fitting in as a rookie? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Jayden Reed is Devontae Adams or Jordy Nelson in his importance in this offense the way that some other Packers wide receivers have, been in the past. But I bet if you did a flash poll of most Packers fans and you ask Packers fans, hey, who would you bet on being the Packers' number one wide receiver? Who do you think their number one wide receiver is? You'd get a mixed bag of answers, but I'd be willing to bet that, again, if you polled 100 people, you'd get 60 or 70 of those people to say Jayden Reed, right? That's not ridiculous. Now, I'm more of a Romeo Dobbs guy. I think he's poised to have a huge season as long as he's healthy. So I would zag a little bit, or zag or zig. I would give a slightly different answer. But again, I bet a solid majority of Packers fans would tell you Jayden Reed probably stands to be the Packers' number one wide receiver this year. Doesn't mean he'll explode every game, doesn't mean he'll get the lion's share of targets or yardage or touchdowns, but on balance over a 17-game season, I bet most Packers fans would tell you, yeah, I think Jayden Reed is their number one wide receiver. And the week before the season starts, or 2 weeks before the season starts, whatever the timetable is, we learn that he's got a broken foot and he's planning to play through it using a combination of rest and treatment. Now, rest and treatment, that's fine. We've seen players use that strategy to go through injuries. Christian Yelich tried it last year. We're going to rest, we're going to treat, see if we can't manage and play through the back. Now, ultimately, he couldn't, but for a time there, it worked. He shut it down, brought it back, and he was pretty darn good again, and then had to shut it down, and he's like, okay, let's just get this resolved. So he had back surgery, right? Players all the time when confronted, and we've seen pitchers do this as well. It's like, well, you could try to pitch through it and get it treated, or you can just try to nip this in the bud, get Tommy John, and get out ahead of it, seeing that's probably where this is trending anyway. So you often see players, confronted with the question, do I try to play through this with treatment and taking it easy at practice, or do I just get the surgery and deal with it and come back 100% healthy and ready to go? The issue with rest and treatment is you don't get a lot of rest in an NFL season. It's really hard to treat in an NFL season. You're playing a game every 6 days, or in the case of, what the Packers are about to do, they're going to play on Sunday and then they're going to play again on Thursday. So that rest has to come Monday through Friday, which means you're missing practice, which I think can cause problems, maybe to the rest of your body. If you're not practicing at all, are you physically in the best position possible to go out and play on Sunday? Even if it's what's best for your foot, is it what's best for the rest of the player's body? It's certainly not what's best for the offense and the player from a performance standpoint. Practicing is really important. Have you ever heard the expression, you practice how you play, right? I'm just worried that this is going to become a thing that leads to missed time. And even if he's able to play through it, like, is he going to be as effective as he should be or as he could be? I don't know. I think this is a bigger story than most Packers fans are talking about. Now, the hope is, well, if Jayden Reed's got to miss some time or he's not himself, well, that's what Dontavian Wicks is for, right? That's what they drafted Matthew Golden or Savion Williams for. That's what Romeo Doubs is for. Christian Watson, the Packers believe, will be back sooner rather than later. That's what he's for. Sure, that's why you have a balanced offense that's not totally and completely reliant on one player. But again, I bet most Packers fans would tell you that Jayden Reed stands to be their number one guy, their top dog. And 2 weeks before the opener against Detroit, a pretty important opener, followed 4 days later by a pretty important week 2 matchup against a conference opponent that's on the rise, a team that's very much a rival and a contemporary in the conference, in the NFC. 2 weeks before that, we learned that, yeah, he's got a pretty significant break in his foot, and the strategy is going to be rest. When? There's no resting during an NFL season. You can't heal an injury while playing games. That's tricky. That's a tightrope that I would bet against a player being able to walk effectively. So I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that he looks awesome. But this is something that Packers fans, I think, should be talking a little bit more about, and that we should probably be discussing and covering on the show a little bit more than we have been. But then again, when Micah Parsons rolls into town and it feels like Reggie White 2.0, like, yeah, that's going to suck up the oxygen. We're going to focus on that. But just put a bookmark in Jayden Reed's foot. Hopefully the rest of the wide receiver unit is ready to pick up the slack, right? Hopefully Dontavian Wicks is chomping at the bit. He missed most of camp with a calf. If Jayden Reed's got to miss a game or two, hopefully Dontavian Wicks is like, all right, now it's my time. Here's my opportunity. And in a deep wide receiver room or in an egalitarian offense, as we've talked about, hopefully these guys are capable of picking each other up. I don't know. It's just not something that gives me a great feeling. It would be like a Major League Baseball catcher playing through a broken hand, for example. Something that we're familiar with William Contreras, although he's looked better recently. So I'll give him credit for that. 608-321-1670. Going to break a little bit early here so we can come back. And if you have any thoughts on this, I can give you the latest audio from Micah Parsons, courtesy of Mike Clemens, who sent it over today. I want to break a little bit early, though, because I want to take our 4:30 break early because I have a solid 20 minutes with John Middlekauff, and I'll hate myself if I go long like I always do, and we'll have to cut it off. So I don't want to do that. Your calls on Jayden Reed's injury, anything else going on with the Packers, or if you have a Brewers thought too, sure, whatever. 608-321-1670. To your calls next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. I'm watching the Brewers out of the corner of my eye, and if this game resolves or one team starts winning by a margin where it looks like one team, like it looks like the Brewers are going to win, or it looks like the Phillies are going to win, maybe we'll address it a little bit in the second hour of the show. But I don't like to cross program, because if the Brewers are playing right now and you're interested in talking Brewers, you're probably watching the game. So if the game gets resolved or looks like it's about to be resolved, in hour number 2, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Brewers. Caleb Durbin just got his second hit of the game. And it's funny because, like, I would like to think that I'm somewhat reasonable. I'm unreasonably reasonable, or reasonably unreasonable, maybe more accurate, with my Brewers takes. Some people just, they never want to see Anthony Siegler again. I understand his value and his profile. And, like, I think there's a good player there, but at a certain point, like, that player needs to appear. And that's been the problem with Oliver Dunn the last 2 years. It's starting to feel a little bit like that with Anthony Siegler. And, you know, you try to say, well, he profiles like this and he's got some real value. And then you watch him play and he does nothing. And then Durbin gets in there and immediately starts making impacts. It's like, it's really hard to tell people that they're wrong when they just want to see Caleb Durbin playing third base every day. So maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit more in the second hour of the show. Mike Clemens got a chance to catch up with Micah Parsons in the locker room, and we'll hear more from Mike Clemens second hour of the show at 5:30 as he joins on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But here's a little Q&A, him talking about his back injury. So I think this is housekeeping. This is information that we should know. So here's a little bit with Micah Parsons. It's about 2 minutes, him talking about his injury and how it happened and what the plan is moving forward.
I'm so hungry. I want it all at once. But that's why you got coaches. And, I always been like that. I never been the type to say, I'm finna come back on seconds. I'm finna load the plate all at once. Like, I'm finna get everything I need in one meal. So that's just always been me since I was a kid. And, as players, all we know, like I said, and I tell people, all I know is go. So once I get an itch of competition, like I see the basketball courts all around the building, I'm like, guys, who wants some? Like, even though we got 3-4 minutes, who want to just shoot some hoops real quick? Like, that's just me. So I know once I get out there, I'm just going to want to go. And that was the first thing, they're just like, well, we got to see how your body is. We got to do that. Because at the same time, I do have to get healthy. I do have to do all those little things to make sure there's a longevity piece in this. It is 18 weeks. There is hopes for playoff run and a long playoff run. So we have to think about that and making sure that everything is good to go.
When did the back tightness start this summer? Like during your workouts? Or
there you go, Mike.
Honestly, it started during camp. When I did a lift and I felt like during one of my lifts, I felt a tweak, and then I just think, standing on it, and I overused it, and that happens. So, it was a complete accident. There was multiple MRIs and opinions about how the injury can go. Like I said, I completed my medicine. I've been at treatment every day, and we've been attacking it and being aggressive to get me as healthy and as quick as possible.
You think you're going to have to do anything, take an injection or anything to play?
We're just going to see about that. Right, like I said, right now, we just took the steroid pack that I got from the Cowboys last week, and we started that last week while I was getting treatment there. So we just started that. We finished the pack, and hopefully that works plus treatment to get me back, to 100.
So there's a little bit from Mike. It happened when he was weightlifting, and Mike was there. Mike was the one who asked the question about when the injury happened. So Mike certainly can provide a little bit more context and information. I've seen some clips from practice, video clips the Packers report. I understand that's not exactly like earth-shattering material, just little clips from practice. He certainly doesn't look all that limited. And I thought Tom Silverstein had an interesting tweet today. I'm going to pull it up because I'll read it to you verbatim. Tom Silverstein does not strike me as someone who's tweeting things for reaction. Tom Silverstein strikes me as someone like, I guess I got to tweet. I guess I should interact with people on the internet. He tweeted 3 hours ago. He quote tweeted Dominique Yates, who does a lot of digital stuff covering the Packers, does some podcast work as well, with Ryan Wood, interestingly enough, who will be on the show tomorrow. He posted some videos, and Tom Silverstein quoted it with this. It said, Micah Parsons made it through a padded practice yesterday. Wonder if there's a backstory to that back injury. This injury is real. I don't doubt that at all. We had a caller to Bill's show earlier today. He's like, well, are we sure the injury just isn't a fabrication to avoid practice and to get out of Dallas? I said, well, no, it's not a complete and total fabrication. I wonder a little bit about the severity. Time will tell. We'll know this a lot better in a month because we'll be able to see how much he can actually do in games. When Tom Silverstein starts tweeting, like basically the thinking emoji, like, something's interesting here. I do start to wonder if there's any theatrics or if there's any, I don't know. I guess that's my take. I guess I just don't know. We need to see the game action. We need to see how he's deployed or his availability between Sunday and Thursday. That'll be a good test with 2 games in a span of 5 days. I just have some skepticism based on video clips that I've seen. I know that those are hardly gospel. I know, but that's all that we have to go off of. Micah Parsons doesn't seem overly concerned in his media avails. And then people like Tom Silverstein tweeting like, I wonder if there's a little bit more backstory to this back injury. Because Tom Silverstein, Spoon would be the last guy to drum anything up or to want to push people's buttons or, post something because he knows it's going to be popular. It's going to be interesting. That's just not him at all. So I don't know. That's the latest from Micah Parsons. If you saw some quotes on Facebook or Twitter earlier today, he spoke pretty strongly about Detroit. He said something like, I've never liked the Lions. Like, oh, fighting words, strong, like combative language there. And then I listened to the full thing, and I guess here I can play it for you. I cut it, and it was part of the intro if you joined us a little late. it's funny because once you watch the clip and you get it in context, he actually has a lot of respect for the Lions. You can hear it in there. Here, I'll play a little bit of the sound again, because if you just read this quote, you're like, oh, he's talking smack. Not really, which is sometimes why hearing the whole comment or seeing the body language and the inflection is important. Here's Micah Parsons.
Week 1, this matchup being against the Lions and now being part of the rivalries in the NFC North.
Honestly, bro, I felt like Dallas and Detroit already had a rivalry. I already got that rivalry built up. Bro, I'm excited to play them. I never liked Detroit. I never liked them. Even when I was in Dallas, it's just it was just always a heavyweight fight every time they came in.
Respect.
And they kind of got our guys when I was injured last year, or the whole team was injured. And so, I just think it's a funny way how things work. I'm excited to play him.
There's some respect there. It's a heavyweight fight. He also has to point out, not surprising, a player with an ego and a big-time player is like, yeah, they also played us last year when I was injured twice. Because, of course, he's got to sneak that in there, right? So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. I want to break a little early because I did 20 minutes earlier with John Middlekauff, who does 3 and Out at the Volume. He is, I think, one of the best people, maybe the best person for breaking down the NFL and stories. He's a former scout. He's been doing this for a long time, very well connected and very plugged in. And very entertaining, too, which is kind of that gold zone. You want someone who's informed and connected, but also can actually present information in a way that's entertaining. So you're going to hear that conversation with John coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, got to rush here a little bit. I did 20 minutes earlier today with John Middlekauff, 3 and Out in the volume. If you're not familiar with his work, I think you're really going to like the hit. We talked about the Packers and Micah Parsons, and he's worked within NFL front offices. He's been a scout for multiple teams. He knows how the sausage is made. So talking a little bit about the Packers process. And I even asked him on the way out the door a little bit about Luke Fickell and the Badgers too. So here's my conversation from earlier today with John Middlekauff. Enjoy. John Middlekauff is here, 3 and Out with the volume. He's been doing stuff with Cowherd for it's got to be close to 10 years, former scout, so very, very connected, knowledgeable around the NFL. We're going to talk Parsons, but I remember you talking about the Packers and liking the Packers' chances in the North and in the NFC before they got Parsons. So can you give us a little bit of that so we have a baseline before we talk about the trade?
Well, I think there are a couple factors. They went 1-5 in the division last year, right? So, and they still won 11 games. If I tell you, a team goes 1-5 in the division, I would say if we did a study of the last 10 years, that team doesn't win that many games and typically is not only not in the playoff mix, but probably drafting really high, right? So, I mean, hell, you go 2-4 in a division, you're probably because your margin for error. I mean, those are games that you should be pretty comfortable with. And historically, you would say the Packers are pretty successful in the division. Though, I think when you look back, Minnesota's been I know they haven't won a Super Bowl, but they've been a well-run franchise now for a long time.
Yes.
They beat up on the Bears with Rodgers forever. And the Lions were, kind of the butt of everyone's jokes I'm 40 years old, most of my life. I mean, honestly, really beside Barry Sanders in the early 90s when they had one good team, but for the most part, they weren't even good when he was there. So I believe in the infrastructure, having worked in the league. And even before that, when I was at Fresno State, seeing the Packers guys come in, they just have, they're a unique organization that basically, the Gutekunst ties to Ted Thompson, to his ties to Ron Wolf, they're all under kind of the same umbrella. It's got a little bit, with the non-owner feel of the Ravens. Like DeCosta has been there forever. He was there, with Ozzie, who's really still around. And so they speak the same language. And that's something that, while coaches might come in and out, they're kind of one of the rare organizations that the GM has always, for the most part, had a lot of juice. Now, maybe, the 90s was a little different time with Holmgren, but Ron Wolf, as Holmgren became a star, and Ted obviously made one of the most important moves probably in the history of the NFL, right, with Aaron. So I just believe in their infrastructure and their guys. whoever they would, even if they hadn't have hired Gutekunst and they had gone with like Elliott Wolf or, whoever, they just have really, really good guys. And I think Gutekunst, the way that he's built this team, because they're not maybe as sexy as they were peak Rodgers and McCarthy, right? With some names like Clay Matthews and Jordy Nelson and stuff like that. I think they're pretty good. And I just trust the organization. Now, their quarterback also got hurt week 1. And he just could never really get a rhythm, basically the way he had played down the stretch of the previous season that you're like, does that kind of look like Aaron Rodgers? I mean, does that? And then it was just a little weird, even though it was kind of a big moment right after that for Matt, right? He wins a couple games with Malik Willis. You're like, damn, that's a defining moment in the young coach's career. I was like, I didn't think Malik Willis was an NFL player. So I just think when you factor in the big picture, like if you just assume the quarterback be a little bit healthier, defensively, they clearly got better, right? I remember when I was with the Eagles, the Rodgers team beat us that was the year they won the Super Bowl. But remember, they had a bunch of injuries that year, and then their defense always let them down. Then when I got out of the NFL and went to work in radio, I'm from Northern California, watching some of those Harbaugh teams. I mean, it was kind of a joke. If they just would have had a decent defense, they always had a Super Bowl winning offense. So now if you get Halfley that knows what he's doing, and obviously before the Micah trade, but you would have just, I thought they were 12 to 14 win team coming into the season.
Well, on the infrastructure of the organization, because I wanted to ask you about this too before we get to Micah. You mentioned on 3 and Out, maybe it was yesterday or the day before, to people who were saying that Goody made a move like this to save his job with the new boss or Ed Policy, who's now taking over for Mark Murphy, like he played a big role in this. You had a little bit of a rant, not to treat you like a jukebox, but I'd love for my audience to hear this about the way that the Packers are run. Like it's by football guys, and you've worked in multiple organizations around the league. So talk to that, because not all these teams are run the same, and they certainly don't make moves in the same way. So talk about that.
Well, I would say any organization that was going to do something to the magnitude of trading first-round picks and then giving the more important thing than the picks is the money being signed for a contract, right? So you're going to give, and a player of Micah's caliber, I always expect, we talk a lot about guaranteed money, and I think that matters for a lot of players because at any moment, like they could just get cut. Guys like Micah Parsons, look around the star players in the NFL. They play out their contracts. We talk a lot about with quarterbacks. Name me a quarterback the last time beside like Russell Wilson. He still ended up getting a majority of that money. You get so much of your contract as long as you don't have a catastrophic injury. And while you get hurt in the NFL, they don't happen as often as you think. So when they give $188 million, there's not an owner to ask. Any of the other organizations, the owner would have been heavily involved, even if he is letting the football people. I don't know if you saw the clip that kind of went viral of Mark Davis. And I've always said this about the Raiders. Mark Davis actually pretty good owner to work for because he lets the GM and coach do whatever they want. And he said, listen, I wanted Tom Brady in 2020, but, Gruden and Mayock didn't. So he didn't say this, but he's essentially saying, like, it was their choice, not mine.
Yeah.
And I think the Packers, that guy doesn't even exist, right? I mean, the closest thing is that president role. And Ed, I grew up in 49er land and a diehard Niner fan as a kid. So Carmen Policy, I mean, that was a very, very famous name just in my world as a kid. Eddie DeBartolo, Carmen Policy. And reading the article about on The Athletic, maybe within the last month about Ed, he had some comments that you realize, like, these guys, there is a little pressure on these guys. He didn't hire them, though. I think it's like, you're going to do better than these two guys. But even Goody, I think, said at the press conference, right? Like, I'm not asking him about practice squad guys, right? Or going to him. But, I mean, a magnitude, like everyone's somewhat involved in a situation like this. But the pack from Ron Wolf to Ted Thompson to obviously Gutekunst, is Murphy telling him to trade Aaron Rodgers, right? I'm not, and he might have been more involved than most. Like he's definitely, at that point in time, he was more involved than Ed Policy is today. But I don't believe at all like Ed Policy had any, like this is a football move. Other people wanted to do this. I mean, this isn't that complicated from the Packers side. Like this is kind of a no-brainer. Honestly, the picks, you don't even hesitate doing it. It's more about, hey, the money, to me, the pressure when you pay a guy this much money, he's got to be an elite player, right? But I give up 2 1s for an all-pro, Pro Bowl guy, even if I do believe he's a little flawed, but like Gutekunst is right. You just don't get the opportunity to get players like this. And for the most part, they draft in the early to mid-20s. So you got to take swings like taking the kid from Iowa that never even started, which the Packers, I will defend them on this. One organization philosophy they've had going back since Ron Wolf is the height, weight, speed thing. that they're big believers in that. And, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's somewhat in the middle. I mean, I think, what's his name from North Dakota State, Watson, fell under that category. And you could tell, like, it kind of translated, but he's injured a lot. And hands aren't great, but, like, they believe in that. And sometimes you're going to get Van Ness, and sometimes, you're going to get a countless other players that have been multi-contract guys that they win, 70% of their games with. So I think it's easy for people to say, like, that's an individual crazy pick. Agree, like Van Ness, for example, but the organization philosophy has served them very well. This is one of those, like, Micah, in a weird way, is not the total height, weight, speed guy because he's really a true pass rusher, a little smaller, but he's such a unique, instinctive, like he's elite at pass rushing, right? And you would say since Clay Matthews, they haven't had like a high-end guy coming off the edge.
Julius Peppers was a huge piece in 2014, like give you a big moment here and there. But in terms of a guy in his prime that they either drafted or identified early, no, it's been since Clay Matthews. You talked about how Parsons was a little flawed as a player. He's not perfect. And I bristle a little bit at like the gold jacket start to his career. Like the Reggie White comps are just going to happen because it's Green Bay. And that lore certainly exists in Green Bay, maybe even more so than it would in other markets. But the reason I love this, even if he's maybe flawed and maybe if people are jumping a little bit too far on this, is I actually think the Packers defense is already full of good or very good players. Like they've built this base. They're lacking one great player. And McKinney's great, but it's a little different. It's hard to have an impact every play as a safety. They've built a nice base. If there was any unit where you would say, I want to stick the guy in, like it would be this Packers defense with Parsons. So talk about the fit and what he brings to the Packers roster.
Yeah, I actually think the fit, there's two fits always, especially in a place like Green Bay. There's on the field and like off the field culture in the locker room.
Yeah.
On the field, like his talents translate to anybody. If you put him on the worst team in the league, he's going to be a productive pass rusher. If you put him on a great team, it's going to look even better. I mean, he looked really good when they were on high-end teams. Like he's a high-end talent. I mean, he went to Penn State, which is essentially now, I know they don't win national championships, but they operate and recruit like Georgia, Ohio State now, right?
Yep.
And he's a blue chipper, no doubt about it, guy there like Abdul Carter, elite talent. And if it wasn't for the 2020 year where like Jamar Chase, he sat out, I mean, looking back, he probably goes top 3 or 4, right? If he had just played that season and they had maybe moved him a little closer to the line of scrimmage and had him rushing, there's no way he lasts till whatever he went, 11 or 12. But to pass rushing, assuming they're going to be good, which I'm betting on, literally. I mean, I got money on them to win the division. I think they're just a pretty sexy pick before this. Like, he should get 14 to 18 sacks and be just pressure and just be very productive in the second half of games when they have leads. I do think there is fair to say that, the Cowboys, the way they operate, and the Packers, the way they operate, are completely different. Even though, like, I'll give Micah credit. Like, if you're going to trade me from Dallas, I got to go to another marquee franchise. And the NFL, unlike baseball and basketball, some of the Packers, the Steelers, like the Chiefs now, like small markets can be marquee premium, and that's what the Packers are.
Brand.
So he's in the bright lights place, right? And I just wonder about internally. Like I didn't even know this, but it's Albert Breer, other people put out. He's not a bad guy by any means, but it's got a little. I'm into myself, and the other thing is when you pay a guy a lot of money and you come into this organization, he's really like Aaron Rodgers for 15 years, and leading before that 15 years, Favre. Who's the guy that you would put on the billboard right now? It'd be Micah Parsons. Like who's their first game again? Oh, the Lions, right?
Yeah.
You would say like, let's just say it's Jared Goff and Micah Parsons like that. If we're doing the Sunday Night Football that's it. So you get this guy while they don't have quote unquote marquee and like superstar Rodgers, Favre, Reggie White, Charles Woodson level players on this roster. These guys have been winning, right? These guys have like, we've been winning. You haven't. We played you a couple years ago, kicked your butt, right? And historically, this organization the last decade, right, has knocked them out 3 times when the Cowboys have had really good teams. So it's like they've done the reverse to the Cowboys of what the Niners did to the Packers in the playoffs. So it's like this weird, kind of connection going back to my youth, which was kind of the opposite. But because the Packers then owned the Niners and the Cowboys beat the Packers, I can't quite remember, but it was definitely the opposite. But my point is that I do think LaFleur's established enough now, and they've shown they could handle when the Rodgers thing got a little weird, so that they've proven that. But this is a little bit different. I know it's easy to kind of kick Rodgers now. Rodgers, I mean, maybe big ego or whatever, but it sure seems like every guy that played with him liked him that I've ever heard talk. So, and he was so good. He was a quarterback. This guy comes in on defense. There are just going to be games. It's like a baseball player where you just go 0 for 4. Like he could have 15 sacks and have a month where he just doesn't have sacks or whatever. So it's a unique challenge. I am not worried about on the field. But immediately I went to YouTube and I just typed in Reggie White highlights. And the thing that came up with his highlights was the NFL. And I think it was when Belichick did like the rankings of players. He's ranked as the 7th best player of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a soul alive in their prime at the same age that would take Micah Parsons over Reggie White. So it's unfair to Micah Parsons. It's like comparing, we're talking like LT, highest level, but relative to the league, yeah, he's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. But I do think the run element, when you factor in, we know the Lions are going to want to run it, right? A lot.
The whole NFC basically is going to want to run it. You've talked about that.
The NFC is a very run-heavy team. Luckily, Kevin O'Connell's kind of addicted to the pass, but with a young quarterback, he might need to run it. And they get Jordan Mason. Their offensive line's better. And Ben Johnson's proven like he's going to want to run it. They've improved that offensive line. Easiest way to be easy. So I would imagine the game plan. You don't run away from Micah Parsons because he can chase you. That's his attribute. Ideally, like people are like, well, you can't run away from the great players either. Well, you definitely cannot run at Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White or whoever the great outside guy is. JJ Watt. Like you run away from that guy, and man, if they catch me, they catch me. You go, I'm running at Micah because that's really. I'm not saying he's some scrub, but it's just not his strength. And when you're paying a guy $188 million, like everything's going to be under a microscope now. You can say it wasn't with the Cowboys. Nothing like now once you factor in that money, changes everything.
Well, and Dak and Jerry, to a lesser degree, probably take some of the spotlight in Dallas and the pressure away from Mike. If they lose games, Mike is probably not at the top of the list for reasons why, at least on, talk radio and podcasts. It's probably not target number one. John Middlekauff is here, 3 and out, just a couple more minutes. It's funny, locally, when we talk with callers on our shows, there's a lot more skepticism than I hear from folks like you, especially on LaFleur. And it's not a lot of questions of whether or not he's good. I think we all agree that he's good. It's whether or not he can coach a team to multiple playoff wins in a row and win a Super Bowl. Does that skepticism surprise you when you hear Packers fans like, I still don't know if he's a Super Bowl guy, though? Does that surprise you to hear?
Yeah, I mean, how many guys? I mean, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh hasn't won a big playoff game in a long, long time. That's right. So I think once like Kyle Shanahan, who had some of the biggest wins of his career have come against you guys. I mean, that's the biggest knock on him. It's like Andy Reid was like this guy that couldn't get it done until he basically became the offensive version of Belichick. So it's like, I would have said that in my younger days. I think the longer you watch, you go, he's pretty darn good. And this is, listen, I see it in Niner territory. Like Kyle Shanahan, who are you going to hire? Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? Brian Schottenheimer? What are we talking about here? Most coaches, unless they're like Belichick in their prime and literally going to the Super Bowl every single year. Like, think about this. Would anyone that's a season ticket holder in Green Bay or a diehard Packer fan, your fan base is massive, trade LaFleur straight up for Nick Sirianni, who just won the Super Bowl?
No.
Of course not, because the guy can't even call plays. So,
right.
It's like that is LaFleur's baby is the play calling, the offense, the scheme. Like, he's in control of that, like all the other guys that we call offensive stars. Kevin O'Connell's never won a playoff game. Never won a play. Lost both kind of in weird fashion when he was favored to win them both.
Yeah,
so
got smoked by Daniel Jones.
I feel like I'm the only one critical, not because I don't like the guy, but we anoint him like he's skinnier, taller version of McVay. It's like, guys, I've seen LaFleur win playoff games with Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. This guy lost to Daniel Jones at home off a 12-win season. Like, Kirk Cousins clearly better than Jordan Love then. And last year, now granted, it was weird circumstances because he had to go on the road. Well, so did the Rams because of the fire. So I think LaFleur, I just believe in these two guys. Now, am I calling them, Andy Reid and Ron Wolf? I'm not going to go that far, but I think you got it pretty good. I would say, and this guy's ability to call the offense, when I watch him talk, and I'm a sicko, I watch a lot of coaches' press conferences, I feel like he's really come into his own, pretty comfortable in his own shoes now. And
he owns it. Yeah.
Most coaches at moments can drive you nuts. Like, there's probably one guy in the league that it's going to be pretty hard to piss off the fans, and that would be Coach Reid, just because of what he's done with the Chiefs. But like, we could see in 3 weeks, people wanted to be like, Sirianni's driving me nuts. It's part of the part of the sport. But I think LaFleur's pretty good.
Well, and fans say, well, is he on the hot seat? And it's like, guys, this is the NFL. Any coach is a bad year from being away on the hot seat, other than, the tippy top guys, to your point.
Do you think Ed Policy has the juice? So let's just say they went 8-9 this year, which obviously would be a massive story, right? Because who knows? Maybe they're giving up the 12th pick and it's just they lose a bunch of one-score games. Like, are those guys getting fired? Are they not getting an extension? Would they just bring back on a one-year deal? Like, how does that – because there is that kind of elephant in the room. Like, but is Ed Policy really going to risk getting rid of those two guys that have a pretty long track record?
They have this year and one more. And the story was Ed Policy saying, well, I'm not going to extend him now. So basically saying we're going to play out this year and then it's either done or you get extended, because he also said we won't do a lame duck year. Does he have the juice? If they go 8-9, I don't know how you could hang it around Goody's neck at this point. Like, I don't know how you can look at this roster. You have a stud safety, a stud young linebacker in Cooper, and then Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons. And that offense is just littered with young talent, a solid offensive line, and Josh Jacobs. It's like, how does this go sideways and be the general manager's fault? That would be my question.
You know better than me. Okay, I'm with you. But would Goody want to, like, what if he's like, I still believe in LaFleur. I don't want to get rid of him. That's where it's like, and who knows? I don't know their relationship. And even if you have a good relationship, we've seen losing can really test people in the sport.
Yeah, and Goody still runs the show. He calls the shots. Like, Matt LaFleur was pissed, I think, because he got rid of his third-string quarterback, and LaFleur's like, now I got to meet another guy. Like, that hierarchy in Green Bay still very much exists, so that's a good way of thinking about it. 90 seconds, you're really good with college football. 10,000-foot view on Luke Fickell and this place that Wisconsin's kind of found themselves stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those jobs that maybe a long time ago was a little bit easier in a different landscape, and now is much more difficult. I mean, the financial kind of backing that clearly Ohio State, Michigan, watching the highlights of that quarterback, who knows? I mean, he's 18 years old, but his physical talents jump off the screen. Well, he's a $25 million kid. I mean, that's what it costs.
That's unbelievable.
The LSU, who might win the national championship this year, not only wanted him, had him committed, and Michigan went, we'll just pay you more. And I would say Penn State clearly is running. So it's just like they've separated. Then you add Oregon and their money. USC has unlimited cash. They are not going to be as bad as they've been. I think it's really, really difficult unless you have multiple boosters with literally unlimited money, because the amount of money you got to spend right now, it doesn't even always pencil. So is Fickell is bad? Like a couple years ago, everyone thought the guy was a genius when he's winning these games in Cincinnati. I think you go to certain places, it's really difficult. I do think the region fits, if you've listened to me talk, always matters in college football. So he's in the right area. It might be more the school. I think we see this with Nebraska. Like, that's a school that kind of has high hopes. You watch them. I was watching that first game. It's like, yeah, they're probably 7-5. I mean, these teams are hoping to be like 10, 11 wins and Rose Bowl bound. Like, those days in NIL, until there's ever some equal playing footing where everyone gets the money from the TV partners and everyone's on the same, the way it is right now, I think there are schools that have won in our lifetime, especially like Wisconsin, who's been really – when I was a GA at Fresno State, we went back there and played them with Bielema. They were really good. I think that was a year or two before they got Russell Wilson, but they were good then. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a lot different world, because guys that would have been on that Bielema team in 2008-9 that ended up going in the top couple rounds. What if Ohio State or Florida or some of these Texas calls and like your best player or two, hey, we'll double the amount of money they can pay you? What are these kids supposed to do? Say no? I think it's easy for anyone on the outside. Like, be loyal. Well, yeah, kid was making $200,000 and then someone offered him $900,000.
Yeah, you're only as what's the saying? You're only as loyal as your options. I think I've heard Cowherd say that.
I think it's a Chris Rock famous line. That's
it.
Men cheating. Yeah, but I think it's some of these programs that I'm 40 years old, so 90s, the 2000s, that were just really consistent teams. Maybe if they weren't winning natties, but we're winning 9-10. Virginia Tech would fall into that. Like, their days might be numbered.
You just have to wait for the schedule to line up for you one year. This is not the year for Wisconsin. If they win,
and then you got to pounce like Indiana, which is hard. Yep. I mean, what if you get a couple injuries and all of a sudden that 10-2 possible season turns into 8-4, and that's the best case you can do.
That's the best window that you get. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. John Middlekauff, 3 and Out in the Volume. Thank you for your time, man. This was awesome.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Thanks to John Middlekauff. He was excellent. Knew he would be. If you missed that interview, if you're just tuning in now, you can get that. I already posted it on YouTube, so you can see the full 20-minute thing. Or you go back and check out the podcast, obviously, but always nice to get guests on video as well. We'll get to your phone calls after 5 o'clock. We'll get an update here from Zach Heilprin. The Brewers in the bottom of the 6th, after Freddie Peralta goes 5 scoreless. Aaron Ashby, by the way, pitching for the 5th time in 7 days, pitches a clean 6th. And then in the bottom, I didn't see how Contreras got on. It was a single, or I think he walked. And then Andrew Vaughn doubled, so they have runners at 2nd and 3rd with nobody out. Durbin hits a grounder to the right side. To be fair to Durbin, he has 2 hits already today. Naturally, you knew that was the at-bat. He wasn't going to get another because that's baseball. And then the next at-bat, Danny Jansen, who failed to sacrifice bunts. Someone should tell Danny Jansen, by the way, that sacrifice bunts typically go to the left side of the infield and not the right. I don't know if his fat ass was expecting to bunt for a base hit. I don't know what he was going for there. Whatever it was, it didn't work. And then Danny Jansen skies one to center. And then Monasterio grounded out. Someone's going to have to explain to me. I must admit, I'm a little confused. Aaron Ashby can pitch 5 times in 7 days. Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick on the bench couldn't get an at-bat from one of them, either for literally anyone other than Jansen. I don't know. Bryce Terang's maybe one of the best hitters in baseball right now with how he's seeing it. Couldn't give an at-bat. All right. Danny Jansen, I swear to God, you guys, him and Anthony Siegler are just about to turn the corner. I can feel it. I can feel it in my plums. They're just about to figure it out. Just a couple more at-bats. I was out on Danny Jansen when in an interview, they asked, well, you're from Appleton. This is going to be cool for you. And then he said, well, actually, I grew up a Cubs fan. I'm not out on him because he's a Cubs fan. I'm out on him because he clearly didn't have the wherewithal to lie about it when he definitely should have. So out on Danny Jansen. That being said, he's going to continue to play. Hour 2 coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it was a full practice field for the Packers today. All 53 players on the active roster practiced, at least on a limited basis, as they prep for Sunday's season opener against the Lions. That included linebacker Micah Parsons, who practiced for a 3rd straight time. Coach Matt LaFleur said after practice that he did what they wanted him to, but there's no guarantee he will play on Sunday. Parsons dealing with a back injury, but admitted it's not just the back after missing so much time.
Still ramping up. It's a process of getting ready for football, being out 6 months, obviously going through the tightness, the soreness. But I just got to put it in faith of, this great training staff and the coaches. They can slowly get me into plays and give me things that I need if we decide to give me the green line out. But it's completely up to the coaches, though.
Meanwhile, wide receiver Jayden Reed and cornerback Nate Hobbs returned to practice after being held out yesterday. Elton Jenkins, Dontavian Wicks, and Savion Williams were among the other players limited to practice today. Meanwhile, the team has signed punter Daniel Whalen to a contract extension. Kick on Sunday is at 3:25. Turning to Wisconsin, they're going to host Middle Tennessee State on Saturday. Badgers big favorites in the game, 28.5 points, though they will be playing with a backup quarterback in Danny O'Neal as starter Billy Edwards Jr. injured last week. Kick on Saturday is at 3.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer. But did you know they also offer competitive home, auto, business, and life insurance? They make it convenient to bundle your insurance while saving you time and money. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers wrapping up their series with the Phillies this afternoon. Then they'll head to Pittsburgh to face the Pirates in a 3-game set. Milwaukee came into the day with a 6-game lead on the Cubs in the NL Central. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
With week 1, this matchup being against the Lions and now being part of the rivalries in the NFC North.
Honestly, bro, I felt like Dallas and Detroit already had a rivalry. I already got that rivalry built up. Bro, I'm excited to play them. I never liked Detroit. I never liked them. Even when I was in Dallas, it's just always it was just always a heavyweight fight every time they came in, and they kind of got our guys when I was injured last year, or the whole team was injured. And so, I just think it's a funny way how things work. I'm excited to play them. I know they're excited, and it's going to go all 12 to 15 rounds.
What do you think of trick plays?
Trick plays are for people who can't beat you straight up. It's like a guy running around the ring all day trying to jab, but meet me in the middle. You know what I mean? Let's line it up. And I think that's what guys who try to do trick plays do. They can't beat you head up. They don't want to out-physical you. They don't want to be dominant. It's a scared tactic, I guess, but, I can beat you any which way.
Detroit, in both games that we played them, we got behind way too early, and that's hard to do against a really good football team. Costly turnovers in both games that ended up being critical plays.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Mike Clemens in a half hour, just coming off a conversation with Micah Parsons. Reporters met with him and other Packers in the locker room earlier this afternoon. Quick update on the Brewers. They're down 1-0. Memorable moments from this game so far. Maybe Freddie Peralta needed 90-some pitches to get through 5, whatever. I'll take 5 scoreless because it's better than the alternative, which is 3 1/4 and 100 pitches like what we get from Quintana or what we get from Miz. So I'll take it. The Brewers have put together 2 rallies. They had first and second with nobody out. Danny Jansen was asked to bunt the runners over. He failed to do so miserably. Bunted the baseball to the wrong side of the infield. Nice. They just put 2 on in the last inning with nobody out. Runners on second and third. Durbin grounder. Danny Jansen lazy fly ball. I mean, I would have sent him home, but whatever. Bader's got a good arm. I guess you can't really argue with that too much. Probably worth a shot. What I don't understand about that inning is Terang and Frelick are on the bench. Probably would have preferred actually both, to Danny Jansen and Andrew Monasterio. Whatever. You got to give players a break. That being said, Aaron Ashby's pitching 5 times in 7 days. And also, Tobias Myers gets the first 2 outs of the last inning, surrenders the run on a blooper into right, like at the end of the world. Like, he looked fine, and now he's pulled with 2 out. Like, for Rob Zastryzny, just leave Myers in. For God's sake, he's a starter. He's fine. This is just so hard to, it's just so frustrating. Like, half of the lineup today is dog water, and Murphy is killing Ashby and giving everyone else the day off. I don't understand it. We don't need to belabor the Brewers if you don't like to, though. I'll take your calls on anything. Hey, what a great conversation with John Middlekauff. Lots of meat left on the plate there if you want to pick at any of the things that we discussed. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Wow, it's funny you say that. I got 3 thoughts on the Middlekauff interview. You ready for them, Grant?
Mm-hmm. I am Vagabond John.
Thought number 1. despite number one with the meat left on the bone. He just snuck in there, and I understand maybe limited on time, missed opportunity for a follow-up question, in my opinion, but we'll let that slide. We're not here to review the tape. He just snuck in there that Kirk Cousins is obviously better than Jordan Love.
I think he said it at that moment in time. I think his point was that version of Kirk Cousins was better than, or was perceived to be better, or was thought to be better at that time than people would have thought of Jordan Love in 2023, which I think is fair. I understand. That jumped out to me too. He's not saying that Kirk Cousins was better. I think he's saying that Kirk Cousins had won 13 games that year, and there were legit expectations going into the postseason, where that probably wasn't the case with Love. I think that was his point.
Yeah, I guess it was in the context. I'd be really curious to hear like where he ranks Jordan Love and kind of his opinions on him, because a lot of the conversation is about LaFleur, and he threw that in there. Obviously better. Are they closer now? Are they, obviously Kirk Cousins is a backup, but is Love closer to where Kirk Cousins was then? Is that why we have expectations?
I think his point, and I think what he was getting at there, if I remember correctly, is Kevin O'Connell has failed to produce wins in the playoffs when he had something established at home when they were expected to win. Matt LaFleur has gone on the road with Jordan Love, a team that had very little expectations, didn't really know much about him, and strung together some good performances. I think that's what was behind that comment.
It's a great transition to point number two, right? Matt LaFleur's career did not start the day Jordan Love took over as quarterback, right?
True.
Matt LaFleur has been with the Packers for a long time, and he mentioned he's got this big, long history. And I'm like, yeah, if you're the offensive guru, if you're in charge of play calling, if that's your baby, as he said, and you have Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and Aaron Rodgers on your offense, I hope that you're putting up more than 10 points in a home playoff game, right? Like we all sat through that. So it was kind of interesting. I'm like, did this guy watch football pre-2022? Like Matt LaFleur has been around for a long time. We've seen what he did with a Hall of Fame quarterback that won 2 MVPs back-to-back. And, let's not act like he hasn't had a quarterback. So that was point number two. Would I trade for Nick Sirianni today? I don't think that's an obvious answer. I think I'd need to look at a couple more things. Nick Sirianni has done a tremendous job hiring, which I think is the most important.
Not 2 years ago. Not with every hire. I think this last hiring cycle and the previous hiring cycle, yes. But then what did they do? They did was it Brian Johnson and Matt Patricia or something? He swung and missed on 2 coordinators, but had the wherewithal, and maybe this is more Howie Roseman than Nick Sirianni, to move on and to upgrade after that year where they got blown out by Tampa Bay in the playoffs.
Yeah, and he's won a Super Bowl. I think we're up 42-0 in the third quarter, right? So dude made it happen. Now Matt LaFleur has a similar roster. Let's see if he can, right? Now, last point, and this is transitioning back to college football. We touched briefly on Wisconsin.
Yeah, what did you think about that? Because I thought that was an interesting. He basically just said, "Look, I think it's the school. I just think," which is basically him saying, "I think Wisconsin might just be porked," and I don't really know what to do with that.
Yeah, well, so I think Wisconsin fans collectively from 2020 to now have fallen into the trap of viewing Wisconsin on the national scale instead of what Wisconsin's been viewed at, right? And I remember I said, Wisconsin fans, who the hell do you think you are? And dudes like Tim and Sparta got pretty fired up by that, right? Like, what do you mean? Who do you think we are?
They weren't some backwoods operation with Bielema or Chris. They were, consistently in the top 10 going to big bowls. They weren't competing for national titles, but I don't think that's what Wisconsin fans are clamoring for right now. So when you ask, who do you think you are? I think the answer would be slightly better than this, but still not Ohio State. And I think that's fair. Come on.
So the teams that he ripped off are like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State in this era. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like when we said we're going to spend $11 million to get rid of our old guy, and we're going to pay this new guy $7.2 million a year. We're going to put all our dollars. We're poor. We don't have a lot. We're going to put it all into coaching. That was kind of my big red flag. And you're not going to pick that up on the national level. That's not his job. He's not in the weeds like we are in the day-to-day battling amongst ourselves on sports talk radio. But, for Wisconsin fans, it kind of is. That's what the national media thinks. Who the hell do you think you are? You should be thinking about competing and consistently being better than Iowa, who's existing in a state with half the population and has another Power 4 school competing with their in-state recruits, and Minnesota, your natural rival. That should be your competition. Wisconsin fans thought, we're ready to take that big next step and be the next Michigan, Ohio State, etc., without the fundamental resources to back it. And I think that his opinion, Middlekauff's opinion, kind of solidified that. And so I agree with his take there. It's like, yeah, we are kind of in no man's land unless we can get the lady out in Verona to like pony up a couple of $1 billion. We know Epic has money.
Well, we know there's money out there. So I'm with you on that. We'll leave it there, Vagabond John. Those are some good points. And that's honestly what I wanted from John on the way out the door. I'm like, don't tell me like, well, their quarterbacks have been hurt. Don't tell me what we've been talking about. Give me the view from 10,000 feet. And what he said was basically like, look, they're a little bit like Nebraska or Indiana, which I know Indiana had a gangbusters year last year. But his point was there are some of these schools that straight up don't have the money of the heavyweights. And this conference now doesn't just have one or two heavyweights. And for a while, let's be real, they really only had one. Like Michigan would have a year here and there, but 10 years ago, or when I was growing up, Michigan was not really the consistent power that they are now. So like growing up, it was basically Ohio State who was sanctioned more than once. Now the Big Ten has seen a resurgence from Michigan. I think Penn State, and I'd have to go back and look. I don't know the histories of all of these Big Ten programs, but Penn State is investing and producing and building teams at a little bit of a higher clip now than what it seemed like when I was growing up, but I could be wrong. But even if I am wrong, Oregon has now arrived, Washington, USC, right? There are these other schools that are now in the fray. It's just a deeper conference. So Wisconsin's not going to be able to compete financially with some of these schools. So they find themselves in a position similar to maybe Nebraska or Indiana. But last year we saw what a school in that spot can do when everything lines up, when their best players peak at the right time, when they have the right coach, and also the schedule lines up. Now, I don't know how Indiana is going to fare this year. I'd bet dollars to donuts that they're not going to fare nearly as well. Could say maybe Indiana's about to become a power. Maybe. I don't know. I would bet against it. I think that Wisconsin should look at Indiana and say, okay, build up the program, bring in as much talent consistently as possible, and hope that everything lines up one year and you have an opportunity to do what a school like Indiana did last year, where it all lines up at once. And you hope everyone stays healthy, and you hope that you get lucky in a coin flip game decided by, did you spike the football at Arizona State in time, back to 2011 or whenever that was with Russell Wilson. I don't remember the exact year. So that's kind of the path. And that's really the only window, to John Middlekauff's point. I thought it was a perspective that is not often talked about, at least around here, right? We're so caught up into the finer details and the players and the coaches. And it's just like, well, from 10,000 feet, look at programs that are maybe comparable and talk about the challenges that those programs face. I will be more on John's side. I will subscribe further to that school of thought when they're not getting their absolute balls busted off by Iowa and Nebraska and Minnesota. Like when Luke Fickell's team can take the field against those programs and not become a complete and total runway for them, like then we can talk about, well, Wisconsin doesn't have the money, well, this and that. Wisconsin has the resources, and they should have the infrastructure and the ability to show much better against some of those contemporaries than they have. So when they get their level of play to match those contemporaries, then we can talk about the structural disadvantages that they face that maybe some other schools in the Big Ten don't. But we're not at that point yet. So that's why we come down from 10,000 feet and we follow the thing a little bit more closely. So again, Vagabond John just picking at some things that we talked about with John Middlekauff in the first hour. Back at 4 o'clock, talked a little bit about Jayden Reed's foot injury. Now he's back at practice today. And I know Mike Clemens is in the locker room. He's emailing me sound. Josh Jacobs, Zach Tom, Matt LaFleur as well. I haven't heard what Matt LaFleur has had to say today. I assume he talked about Jayden Reed. I assume he was asked about his availability for Sunday. And I assume he punted on the question and said, we'll see, right? We're hopeful, which is what he should say. I don't expect there to be anything earth-shattering in there. But if there is, right, we'll get that from Mike Clemens at 5:35 at the bottom of this hour. My Jayden Reed take today, and I brought this up with Bill earlier, is this dude's got a Jones fracture in his foot, which normally takes surgery. This is not, I almost said turf toe, but turf toe can be pretty significant as well. This is not a hangnail, right? It's not a sprain that should completely return to form if rested for 2 weeks and if a setback isn't suffered. This is a legitimate fracture that is normally dealt with surgery and a long rehab period. And Jayden Reed is elected to play through it. Rest and treatment. Rest and treatment. Rest and treatment. That's what I keep saying. But when are you getting rest in an NFL season? You're playing every 5-6 days. I mean, they're going to go Sunday, Thursday. from week 1 to week 2 between the Lions and the Commanders. So when is that rest coming? Injuries don't heal while you're playing NFL football games once a week. That's not how it works. And it's the same with Joe Burrow in previous years. I've heard people make this point where like Joe Burrow will start the year injured, something with his hand or something. And it's like, well, and he's going to play through it. But the point is, like, it's not going to get better. At the very least, best case scenario, it stays the same. Most likely, it probably gets worse because NFL football games are violent. It has been described as many by multiple car crashes over the course of a few hours. That's not an environment. That's not a situation where a foot should get better. And the reason I'm bringing it up and the reason I'm talking about it today is not to just be a total prick who complains about everything. But I think if you polled 100 Packers fans, 60 some or 70 some of them would say our number one wide receiver is Jayden Reed. Not with a bullet. He's not going to, he's not going to get the lion's share of targets and touchdowns and catches every single week. He's not going to win the Triple Crown for this team. At least I would bet against it. But I think a lot of Packers fans would say, yes, the Packers' number one wide receiver is Jayden Reed. And that's a pretty significant thing, right? Like if your number one wide receiver is going to try to play the entire season with a broken foot, that seems significant to me, and I don't know that we've talked about that enough. I can't wait to talk with Mike about it at the bottom of the hour. We haven't discussed it mostly because Micah Parsons arrived a week ago tonight, and that's kind of taken all of our attention, rightfully so. That's a big deal. But I just think Jayden Reed playing with a broken foot and really being unable to practice every day each of the last 2 weeks is a pretty big deal, especially when he shows up with a walking boot on. Like, dude, I just had a walking boot on last week. The distance between walking boot and playing well in an NFL game, that's not a short distance at all. Like, that's a pretty big leap. And the idea that, well, I'll rest it and treat it through the season. No, well, then at the very least, you expect to maintain because it's not going to get better. It's not how injuries work. That's not how the sport of football works. 608-321-1670. We'll take a call and then we'll take our break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on 990.
Good evening, Eric.
Good evening. So, are you a little bit worried about this Micah Parsons injury?
Not really. Then that could change. That could change in a week. You know what I mean? If he tries to go Sunday and he can't, then yes, I will be. But not right now, no.
Not right now, no. Did the Packers know about this?
They gave him a physical. Yeah, they knew about this.
They knew about this. I'd be a little worried about it. I mean, you just said you're worried about this other guy's injury and how it's not going to get better during the season.
Well, he's in a walking boot missing practice. Micah Parsons has practiced the last couple of days.
Okay.
I'm not trying to argue with you, Eric. I'm just give me 2 weeks and I will better be able to give you my level of concern on Micah Parsons' back.
I would never try to argue with you, Grant. I'm trying to plant seeds in your brain for things to worry about. Because I know you're a worrier. I do know that.
I am a worrier. I worry about everything.
You are. I know. But don't worry, Grant. It's going to be fine. Football's starting tonight.
Yeah, you got special plans? Or are you watching at your secret lair, or are you going to be back on your comfortable couch tonight?
Going to be back on my comfortable couch tonight. Secret lair season is almost over.
Oh, really? Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. So we're going to get back home and Survivor's going to start too.
You're darn right. We're getting down to it, Eric. This might be the best time of year.
It might be the very best time. It is, Grant, the very best time of the year. You have a great day.
You as well, Eric. Have a good night. It's the most wonderful time of the year, indeed. Let's take a break. 3 minutes. We'll come back. Any final thoughts on the Packers, which will take us perfectly right into Mike Clemens' his appearance at 5:35. We'll be back in just a few.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, Mike Clemens to join us in about 10 minutes. Bryce Strang just got a pinch hit opportunity. Nobody on. Unlike, 2 innings ago when I had to endure Danny Jansen and Andrew Monasterio. If I have to watch Blake Perkins hit again today, I'm just gonna turn the game off. Might leave a little early too. Credit to Joey Ortiz. At least he makes an attempt to hit strike 3. Blake Perkins just watches it go by like, oh, crap. I was kind of hoping he'd walk me. Somebody in the group chat earlier today, I won't say who, said, yeah, the P in Perkins stands for please walk me, because that seems to be his obvious approach at the plate. Or he's just up there to enjoy the sights and the sounds. I don't know. Get the bat off your shoulder. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hello? Get the phone off your shoulder. Right? I'm going to drop you off. Call back. I don't know if there's something going on your end. I don't want to rob you your opportunity to join the show today. The Brewers are down in the bottom of the 8th. There's one out. Isaac Collins just flew out. So now their 3 and 4 hitters are up next. And if it doesn't happen there, I would rather not watch the bottom of the order, try to actually do this in the bottom of the 9th. Some of your text messages coming in. Corey and Marshall says, I have a question for Eric. Is he worried about a rookie starting quarterback who has yet to throw, who has to throw to a 35-year-old wide receiver? Look, I think Adam Thielen is good. He also has a guy named Justin Jefferson who's pretty good as well. I mean, look, there's uncertainties for every single team. If a Packers fan was concerned about the back, considering they just gave up 2 firsts and that fat contract to get him, that's fine. Guys, there's not enough to go off for me right now. He could come out on Sunday and play 20-something snaps and wreck shop and be the reason they win. And I would look back and think, why was I... Look, I'll worry and I'll stress and I'll complain, but I'm not someone who's going to worry or stress or complain until it's time to worry or stress or complain. And I'm not going to lose my mind over an Adam Schefter tweet about Micah Parsons' back. I watched videos of him at practice, padded practice, both of the last 2 days. I don't know. It looks like Micah Parsons to me. That's all we have to go on right now. So I could keep myself up at night thinking, well, what if something's wrong with his back? Or I could just wait to see if there's something wrong with his back. And then I could react and respond accordingly. Rick from Spencer says, Middlekauff is awesome. I watch him all the time. You need to get Paul Farrington on next. Yeah, Andy Herman does stuff with him. Is that I've not indulged in the Paul Farrington show. A lot of people like it though. I see a lot of good interaction. We kind of have a Vikings guy in the show though. We got Matt Collar, Purple Insider, who I like. That's kind of my guy. Has been for a while. We could always have more than one. Don't get me wrong. But maybe I need to dip into the Farrington show just a little bit. Ty on the live stream says, I don't understand Murphy's management today. Yeah, man, and now he's got Piamps and Uribe warming. I'm mad that Uribe's warming, to be clear, not Piamps. I'm fine with Piamps coming into this game. They're down by a run. I don't understand why, if Bryce Trang or Sal Frelick were able to pinch hit today and available, why they didn't get a chance with runners on second and third when the game was tied. Instead, he throws Bryce Trang in the bottom of the seventh with nobody on. It's like, okay. Aaron Ashby 5 times in 7 games is absolutely insane. Like, we have a track record now with Murphy of how he handles relievers. He finds the guy that he really likes and he runs him into the ground. And then once he does that, he finds the next guy, which worries me a little bit because Aaron Ashby has been load bearing for this Brewers team. Like, they're porked without him over the last 3 weeks or so, given their starters not going very deep and their bullpen injuries and their bullpen fatigue. Like, they're porked without Aaron Ashby. And Murphy is currently using him like a rented mule, which I do not appreciate. First of all, because I'm a big Aaron Ashby fan, and I finally feel like we're seeing results. We're finally seeing the stuff, and we're finally seeing what's behind Aaron Ashby and why they've continued to try to deal with him and get him over this injury and why they gave him the contract in the first place. And now I feel like Pat Murphy's going to run him into the sand. And I'm not a fan. It's funny because the Brewers are so smart and they're so good at so many things. And then other things, I'm like, do you guys know how to manage injuries? Like, do you guys know that when a player's hurt, you shouldn't play him? There's just a real lack of consistency with how they handle injuries. I'm not blaming the Brewers for Yelich's back or Churio's hamstring or Sal Frelick's hamstring. That would be silly. I'm criticizing them for how they've processed these injuries. The Contreras hand thing is, we lost that battle long ago. That's not worth talking about anymore. That was decided, and there's no point in complaining about it anymore. But like Sal Frelick going into the All-Star break, he's got a hammy that's been giving him issues. The Brewers have won 1 billion games in a row. They're about to have 5 days off, and they throw Sal Frelick out on a Sunday game knowing that something's bothering him. That's insane. That's just such an easy thing. It's so easy to not do that. And then like futzing around with Churio and Yelich yesterday, I don't get it. So like, all right, Yelich is back. Or here's what we were told. Churio's not in the lineup because he got a little bite on his hamstring and he hasn't been trusting it. So we're going to give him back-to-back days off. Okay, that makes sense. Churio's really important. I don't want to futz around with his hamstring and his health. But then Yelich's back flares up. It's actually, Churio's actually healthy enough to play now that, sorry, I'm getting distracted out of the corner of my eye by the Brewer game. Now that Yelich's back is flared up, Churio's hamstring is all of a sudden fine. Terang just went first to third on a stolen base attempt and then a throw into center field. So they have a chance to tie or under a third with Durbin at the plate. I don't get it. There's stakes to this, you guys. You cannot mess up with Jackson Churio's hamstring. You can't mess up Christian Yelich's back, and you can't run Aaron Ashby into the ground. Any of these players missing the postseason disqualifies them from going on a deep run. You can't do it without Yelich. You can't do it without Churio. And right now, you can't do it without Ashby. So I'm not saying that Aaron Ashby can only pitch once a week, and I'm not saying that Churio needs 3 days a week off. I'm asking for a little consistency. That's it. Just a little bit of process behind the way they're handling these injuries, because it's going to, if they futz around and Frelick's got to go on the IL again for a month, or Churio hurts himself severely, or Yelich, one of these guys, like, they're porked. They're porked in the postseason without all of those main characters, and they've all had health issues to some degree, and I think the Brewers have handled just about all of them poorly. Let's take a break. Mike Clemens is going to join us on the other side thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. He had a chance to speak with Micah Parsons earlier today, so we'll hear the latest on that, other injuries, and everything else heading into the weekend and Week 1 Packers Lions on Sunday. Mike Clemens next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think he's done a great job. I think he continues to get a little bit better each and every day, and I love his approach to the game. He loves ball. It's important to him, and he invests everything into it.
It's Matt LaFleur. Was that yesterday or the day before? Talking about Micah Parsons, his rehab and his progress headed towards Sunday. Sounds like they're hopeful he's going to play. Sounds like they are optimistic. We'll see. Naturally very cagey. If there was ever a time to be cagey about a player's ability, this would be the week. So I'll let Matt LaFleur off the hook on nondescript answers. Mike Clemens is here. Thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Never nondescript, always hard-hitting analysis, never leaving anything up in the air or anything in question. Mike, pretty cool day today. I saw you guys at a media scrum with Micah Parsons. Pretty cool quotes. I think Packers fans are going to eat some of those clips and some of those quotes up.
Yeah, no, that was Matt LaFleur this afternoon.
Oh, that was today.
About
Okay.
the progress, and we didn't really know that we were going to get to talk to Micah Parsons at all this week because he's a player fighting through an injury. He's limited on the injury report again this afternoon. But this morning I called in to Bill's show to talk to you and Bill to say, before I walk into this practice today, it's like, okay, first of all, it's starting to sink in. I know this sounds stupid, because maybe I've been doing this so long, the gravity of the fact that this man is making $188 million, he's close to what Powerball is going to pay off this weekend.
Yeah.
Right? But historic. This is an historic player. He's the most in NFL history as a player, except if, a non-quarterback, right? And all the coverage that this thing got all summer long, it was a week ago today that this trade just was going down right about at this time.
Yep.
And so the gravity of this move by the team, I will tell you, is the reality is when you're here every day at practice and with these players in the locker room, it's like slowly sinking in a little bit in terms of this is going to be a big deal through the whole season. Do you realize? I mean, we've got a spotlight as hot as Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers here again with this guy. Only it's just different because it's a defensive player and because all this stuff that went on with the Cowboys and all this lead up that's going to be to the Cowboys game. So then we were in the locker room and then, you get one of the guys that leans over and says, hey, we're going to bring on Micah, but let's do it out in the hallway. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So outside of the new locker room, and there's some reasons why they're doing that. But anyway, we get out there and one of the things that I called in today is I said, okay, so we know that Micah Parsons claimed he had a back injury. What was that reason, Grant, that they had that picture of him laying on a medical table during a preseason game? That
Yep.
sort of what was the build up to that? Because I don't know. What was that all
To
about,
me, that was a public statement of give me my contract or get me out of here. I'm unhappy. That's like James Harden showing up to training camp fat because he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. Eating nachos, just trying to demonstrably show I'm not happy. This needs to get resolved. So I'm going to make a public, thing of it.
Yeah. See, I didn't see video of that, but he's actually eating nachos on the sideline.
Yeah, he came out of the tunnel with a snack, and I don't think it's the biggest deal. You know what I mean? It's not like he pulled out his junk on television, but it's, it's a little thing where if you're a general manager or an owner, you probably don't like that. That seems disrespectful or dismissive.
Well, I've got writers here that are resurrecting Ezra Johnson eating a hot dog in the sidelines when he played for the Packers on the defensive line. So Micah comes, and so what I said to you guys today was, I said, okay, so we know that it's the L4 and the L5 joint in the back, strain, and we're talking about epidurals, and maybe you can get an injection before the game. And J.J. Watt says, hey, that's no big deal. A stiff back in football? Are you kidding me? Everybody's got a stiff back, and he's right. When I see the quarterback walking by, he's got all those suction cup marks on his back coming out of the shower, right? This is just part of the football. A sore back, it happens every day. But today, I found the opening and I found out exactly how he jacked up his back, and it came during a discussion with Micah Parsons, and we asked him, so how hungry are you to get out there maybe this week one against the Lions? And we talked about his back injury.
I'm so hungry, I want it all at once. But that's why you got coaches, and I always been like that. I never been the type to say I'm finna come back on seconds. I'm finna load the plate all at once. Like I'm finna get everything I need in one meal. So that's just always been me since I was a kid. And as players, all we know, like I said, and I tell people, all I know is go. So once I get an itch of competition, like I see the basketball courts all around the building, I'm like, guys, who wants some? Like, even though we got 3-4 minutes, who want to just shoot some hoops real quick? Like, that's just me. So I know once I get out there, I'm just going to want to go. And that was the first thing, they're just like, well, we got to see how your body is. We got to do that. Because at the same time, I do have to get healthy. I do have to do all those little things to make sure there's a longevity piece in this. It is 18 weeks. There is hopes for playoff run and a long playoff run. So we have to think about that and making sure that everything is good to go.
When did the back tightness start this summer? Like during your workouts, or did you feel it during your workouts?
Honestly, it started during camp. When we I did a lift and I felt like during one of my lifts, I felt a tweak, and then I just think standing on it and I overused it, and that happens. So it was a complete accident. There was multiple MRIs and opinions about how the injury can go. Like I said, I completed my medicine. I've been at treatment every day, and we've been attacking it and being aggressive to get me as healthy and as quick as possible.
You think you're going to have to do anything, take an injection or anything to play?
We're just going to see about that. Right, like I said, right now we just took the steroid pack that I got from the Cowboys last week, and we started that last week while I was getting treatment there. So we just started that. We finished the pack, and hopefully that works plus treatment to get me back, to 100.
So Mike Clemens is here. Thanks to Bay Motel. I watched clips of him in practice. He looks pretty full bore, Mike. How much of this back injury is NFL football is really physical? You're lifting a lot of weight. These types of things happen. They're very common. This isn't some, otherworldly rare injury. Do you think too much is being made of this or not enough? Where do you fall on this?
Well, it's because one of those descriptions that, one of the networks had, that ESPN had, makes it sound like, oh my God, permanent back damage. And
yeah,
no, it's a strain. And obviously Green Bay looked at this a week ago today before the contracts were signed, when they put him through his physical before we do, these trades are pending physicals. And they looked at it and they said, hey, his career's not over. Okay. This will maybe take 3 or 4 weeks. We can do this. We can do that. Obviously, they've got a plan where they think that they're going to get $188 million worth out of this player. And quickly, the flat, and as Brian Gutekunst, where's he at in this? There's that age-old story 30 years ago. Ron Wolf saw this third-string quarterback from the Falcons, bring him up, traded away a first-round pick, was about to sign him, but he goes through the physical. Doctors say he's got a degenerative situation in his hip. That's the thing that ended Bo Jackson's career.
Mm-hmm.
This kid's maybe got a year or 2 left. And he said, I don't care. He's got such an arm. If I can get 2 years out of him, fine. And that was Brett Favre, who went on and played, set the record. Right. So I think maybe Goody knows that history too. And he's like, I don't care. I know how good this guy can be. We'll figure out, we're going to get that back healed up, and he'll be able to play football. So that's the status. He's limited today in practice. Other guys that are out there, Elton Jenkins at center, limited again with a hip injury.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's played a lot of football, but it's like, come on, man. Dontavian Wicks, I've told you guys, I've been seeing progress from him. I heard from the locker room that he probably could be good to go the way he's going. I don't think Jayden Reed, with that foot injury, the Jones fracture, which is kind of a stress fracture on the foot, he's limited, but I don't know if he can. He didn't participate at all yesterday. I don't know if he can ready in time. But I think for an offensive plan, it'll be Josh Jacobs to run with the football. You got Romeo Doubs, you got Matthew Golden, you got the tight ends looking great, during camp. Plenty of options at least to get started for offense. And then you've got to worry about the defense of the Lions. And Aiden Hutchinson usually lines up over the right tackle. So I went to the right tackle, Zach Tom, and we asked him, hey, you've got this all-pro and Micah Parsons over there. Can you talk to him about any tips about Aiden Hutchinson and things that you can do to beat him?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like him and Hutchinson are like two different kind of rushers. I feel like Hutchinson's more speed to power. Micah's more like just straight speed, rip, finesse. So, I mean, I can ask him, but at the end of the day, like, they're not really the same player. So I'm just going to watch the film. I've already been up against Aiden, multiple times. So I feel like I kind of know what he wants to do. And obviously he's really good at what he does. So just got to use my fundamentals and blocking.
You know what's funny, Mike, is and people forget about this because Mike has been such a good pass rusher. He didn't come into the league as a pass rusher. He wasn't an edge in the draft. He was an inside linebacker. He was an off-ball guy at Penn State who they moved to end or moved to pass rusher. So when we're talking about the style of rusher, Zach Tom talking about speed to power versus just straight speed, like that's another part of what makes Micah Parsons unique is although it doesn't feel like it and we don't talk about it, he's playing out of position.
I want to say I remember him stopping the Badgers run back in the day.
Probably. I don't have memory of it, but probably if they played, I would imagine.
No, I thought he stood out, back then. So, at the end of the day, and I went through the tape of the last two games, and it's ridiculous that the Lions have just dominated the conference. I mean, this is really going to be on Matt LaFleur now. About you need to reclaim the NFC North, and it needs to start this Sunday at home against Dan Campbell and those Lions. I think that this Jeff Hafley defense can hang in there. It's just you got to stop with the damn turnovers, and you've got to score earlier in these games.
Yep.
So that the defense can tee off, even whether Parsons is out there or not, give a chance for, Rashawn Gary and for Lucas Van Ness to do their thing and, Xavier McKinney back there. So we went to Josh Jacobs. To me, I think the biggest story of this camp is I never saw the offense really click all through camp. You got a quarterback with the jam thumb, and have surgery on it. You've got Dontavian Wicks out. You've got all these guys out. You got guys on the offensive line. So today, I asked the running back, Josh Jacobs, have you finally felt like you got a first-team offense, even if it's 90% of the roster, that you got enough reps together so that, all those injuries you had during camp?
Yeah, I do think that the beginning of like last week was a little weird because we had guys starting to, come back and practice. But one thing that I will say that a lot of guys that were out has played a lot of ball here. So it's like after that day or two, like you could tell like Wicks, Jay Reed making plays all day today. So I think we'll be all right. Just as long as, they condition and stuff is up to par, I think we'll be fine.
It is a weird situation, Mike. We talk about them starting fast in week one or starting faster in games. That's something that Matt LaFleur talked about, right? We can't put ourselves in a hole by early turnovers or slow starts on offense. But that's something that I'm worried about considering all of the time that's been missed by Jayden Reed, by Elton Jenkins, by Banks, by Wicks, even though I don't think he projects to be a starter. Like, this is a season and a game in the micro and the macro that they need to start fast. And the type of camp that they have, I don't know that it lends itself to starting fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And another question, I think you guys brought this up. It's like, okay, so Jordan Love, I mean, if you're right-handed, if you fall, if you're getting sacked, you usually stick out your left hand to stiff arm the ground, right? And we asked Jordan Love that yesterday during his presser. He goes, I haven't really done that yet. I mean, I haven't been hit, so I don't know how I'm going to react. Like, well, what? Really? So did you just hear Josh Jacobs say there that Wicks and Reed look pretty good today? And I mean, that's kind of oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's
here. 3:00 says limited. Okay, all right. Dontavian with the calf injury and Reed, with the foot injury. Okay, so today, Tom Silverstein from the Journal Sentinel questioned LaFleur about, hey, Jordan Love, now are you guys trying to see if he can hand off with his left hand instead of just always with the right? Listen to this.
Were you able to test Jordan's ability to hand off left-handed pretty well through the week so far?
No, not really.
Really?
Yeah.
So
he hasn't done that once.
So does that mean you're going to just do it the other way?
Got to do something.
You're not pulling my leg, right?
No, I'm not. I'm being serious.
How long do you think that lasts? I mean, at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But
does it change anything? I mean,
absolutely, it can change things.
In terms of your run game, or I mean, he just has to adjust to a different way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely can change things in regards to some of the things you may be limited to doing. So, but he's done a good job with what we've given him.
So,
I'm sorry. We had a meter go off.
What was that?
We've got something wrong here. Because you know what? Because if you go back to Josh Jacobs and you say, So, are you getting used to getting all those handoffs from Jordan Love from the right hand?
Nah, man, he handed. I don't know if y'all seen it. He handed off with his left today, so I think he'd be all right, man. I mean, I'll just tell him give you the ball. It's cool. However you get it to me, I don't care.
You're not the one trying to stop us.
So this Matt LaFleur cat, his gamesmanship just knows no bounds, Mike. It's almost to a ridiculous level. And if there's ever a week for it, it would be this week, right? Like 2 days into camp, you can be a little clear. I get it that it's game week, but he really does take it to the next level.
Yeah, I know. So I just thought that would be fun to share with the class. Okay,
Jeez.
don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Don't tell Dan Campbell. Okay, the quarterback can use both his hands. Okay.
Whatever will they do? Whatever will Dan Campbell and his coordinators do? All right. Well, I know we're going to hear from you on Bill's show tomorrow. Is there anything that you'd recommend Packers fans think about, consider? What's on your mind? Give me 60 seconds of what's on your mind, as now we're just a couple days away from Sunday.
Well, first of all, today's update this afternoon, they gave a contract to Daniel Whelan. I don't have the terms yet, but the punter. So that means that they've signed their place kicker, their long snapper, and now their punter because they feel real good about special teams. I think overall it's just, can Adam Stedovich and Matt put together an offensive plan with about 90% of their starters in offense against this tough and probably pretty healthy Detroit Lions team? And they need, to flip it. And John Morton, the guy who's taken over the play calling for Jared Goff and that Detroit offense, this guy, he's been with the organization before. He left for a year or two, but he may have mentored Ben Johnson. The thing that Ben Johnson did, who's now the head coach of the Bears, that he did so well is that he would run a play like to the right or something. I remember doing this. And then he'd wait until like the third or fourth quarter, and he'd run the same kind of motion. It looked like the same kind of play, only Goff would pull it out and turn back, and there's Sam Laporte over there on the left-hand side, wide open at tight end.
Yep.
He's really good at setting up plays like that. That's what we'll see if the Lions can still do that with Jared Goff. Other than that, it's going to be a hell of a game, and the pressure is all on the Packers. I think the pressure is all because it's at home, and because the 1-5 record last year and all that. This is huge for Green Bay to get off on the right foot against his division foe.
I would agree, because if they lose on Sunday and it looked like last year, Mike, you know how Monday's going to go. We're going to be right back where we left off last year. Nothing changed. There were no improvements. There was no growth. There was nothing. It's the same as last year.
And
I would like to avoid that personally.
And then you got Jaden Daniels and company and Dan Quinn and those guys coming in from Washington. By the way, I have figured this out too. When Matt LaFleur answered some of my questions last Friday night about, do you think that this Micah Parsons can fit in? And he said, yeah. I call around some coaches, and I'm like, that took me, a few hours. It's like, oh, wait a minute, Dan Quinn.
Yep.
Dan Quinn. He worked for Dan Quinn as the quarterback coach when Quinn took the Falcons and Matt Ryan to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. And then Dan Quinn was the DC under McCarthy when Parsons was there. Yeah, the last couple of years, not last year, but the previous 2 or 3.
He's got his defensive coordinator, telling him exactly what kind of a personality he's going to get if they make that trade. So
excellent. Well, Mike, we'll look forward to your appearance with Bill tomorrow. Enjoy kickoff tonight, opening night.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it, pal.
No, appreciate you, Mike Clemens. Thanks to Bay Motel in Green Bay, BayMotelGreenBay.com. So you can look up their availability for your fall trip if you're going to any games, or if you're going to Green Bay for any other reason. The Bay Family Restaurant right there as well, open 7 days a week, home-style cooking. They'll fix you up good. 3 minutes. We're going to come back, wrap up the show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Last couple minutes here. Thorson and Heilprin just minutes away. Zach and Ebo standing by live. Monks in Sun Prairie. Here's the problem. I always tell them, because sometimes we'll chat for a couple minutes at the end of the show, but we went long with Mike. Sometimes I'll tell them, like, next week I'm going to come, because I don't have anything going on. And then I realize, and this is going to sound like, I hope they're not listening, this is going to sound like such a little whiny baby complaint. Sun Prairie's on, like, the other side of town. So if I get the podcast posted and I'm out of here at 6:10, I'm not there until 6:35. And at that point, I mean, the show's halfway over. And if I knew Zach and Ebo wanted to, hang out and slug some beer, but here's the thing. I don't, like, they're not going to want to do that with me. They're going to hang out with listeners. They've been there for a while. I don't think they want to do that with me. I'm going to see Ebo in the morning. So one of these weeks I'll get over there. I got to stop promising that I'm going to go. One of these weeks, I'm just going to show up. I'm going to stop promising. It's on the other side of town. I'm barely going to be able to make it there before the show's done. But you should. Food and drink specials, and football's back. So you have something to watch. And Zach and Ebo are a great hang. So I'm jealous of you. Hopefully, if you're not there already, you're getting very close. Thorson and Heilprin for the next hour. Otherwise, we'll reconvene tomorrow for one final preview of Packers Lions tomorrow at 4. Thank you for listening, as always.